To the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And hello, K-Man, and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk here on your favorite Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and welcome to Straight Talk. How are you today, Mr. Harris?
I'm well today, Mr. Solomon. Happy Friday to you. We made it to the end of another week.
Amazing.
Isn't it just?
And, that should be a really serious statement because a lot of people didn't make it to this Friday, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Very true. Very true.
So, yes, we have a lot to be happy about, a lot to be proud about. And, yeah, we're almost...
to be grateful for, too.
We're working to being 4 months old now.
We are. We're almost there, just around the corner, aren't we?
Yeah.
4 months old, and we haven't killed each other yet. Look at that.
We did that for years and managed to avoid that particular incident.
Good point. Good point. Well, again, proving that lightning does strike twice in a bottle.
And it stays contained and harmless, apparently.
Certainly does, but we dare not open the lid just in case.
That's the one.
Especially as liberated as we are these days.
You are correct. Like, we don't have to worry about trying to get a vote.
Yep.
Absolutely not. We're free.
Free and clear. Free like a bird in the tree.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you and I have been listening to all of this back and forth about our poor DJT and Elon. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, the bromance has ended, and it has ended badly.
See, this is why, I was having a discussion a few days ago, and I talked about the fact that why is it that as a world, as a society, it's like it seems to be so much focus on money,
Yeah.
Like, I think I have a level of respect for money, let's put it that way. I appreciate the value, I appreciate the things you can do, but I admire people that they think. I like skills.
Sure.
I like those sort of, I prefer to chat with a guy that made the Lamborghini rather than the guy who actually buying it.
Right.
It's just me. Call me twisted.
There you go.
But, just sitting there and watching this discussion and debate and debacle or whatever one wants to call it, it just really humanizes things and say, it really doesn't make much difference, does it?
No.
Whether you got 1,000 or can't pay the bill, you're still doing the same crap that you'd be doing if you had 400 billion.
I operate on the Alan Jackson song as it relates to money. It's all right to be little bitty.
It's all right to be little bitty.
A little hometown on a big old city.
Yeah, so we got how to sing that one day.
Might as well share. Might as well smile. Mm-hmm. Life goes on for a little bitty while. Yeah, that's a great song. And who
that must be rubbing off on you.
Who don't love a little Alan Jackson? Yeah.
Yeah. I like Alan Jackson. I haven't listened to a lot of his songs lately. I mean, I used to. But, I need to refresh myself so I can just do a little chime or two on here.
The older I get. That's another good song.
I liked this one that he sang with George Jones, when he was doing the Good Year for the Roses.
Yes.
Hey, where'd they come up with these lyrics, my friend? I have no idea.
So I enjoy Alan Jackson. He put out, obviously several years ago, but he pulled out a gospel album from the Grand Ole Opry. So he performed in the Grand Ole Opry, but sang gospel, and of course singing all the classic, How Great Thou Art songs.
That's one of my favorite.
And he was, again, phenomenal. What a terrific voice he has. And I could listen to Alan Jackson and George Jones all day long and have it on constant repeat.
You're right.
And never be bored.
Wear the tape out.
Speaking of stretching the old cassette tape out to the point where it's useless to anybody else.
So with this song, just really quickly, with this song, I mean, like I said, where they come up with the lyrics, I really don't know. So if you listen to Good Year for the Roses, right? So he's saying that, basically I can see the lipstick there on the cigarette that you left, and Then he goes on to talk about the coffee and that you didn't finish drinking. I mean, it's like, when they put all this together, it's like, how in the world did they do this?
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I really have a lot of respect and stuff for those for the talent, you know. Both in terms of the persons who write the song as well as those who deliver it. Awesome stuff.
Indeed.
But don't let that good music thing get in the way of our good news. A little bit more banter.
Indeed. You know, you talk about a good year for the Roses. That was a song that I think was originally recorded 1970. But also Alan Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, also did a duet, probably a bit rarer with Jones. He stopped loving her today.
Do you know, I heard that was like a number one song.
Matter of fact, he sang that, if I remember correctly, he sang that at George Jones's funeral. Alan Jackson did.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
They're
and
quite
it was
appropriate.
Very, very appropriate. And what an emotional moment.
Yeah, I think I heard at one point that was number one on the charts longer than any other song arguably in the world.
I wouldn't doubt it.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
I wouldn't doubt it. It was, I mean, really, it still is.
Yeah.
You hear that song, I said, you know, put it on repeat and you'll never get bored, babe. You just wouldn't. You just wouldn't. And it's like, a lot of it's like Bob Marley's songs, you know, they're prophetic. Yeah. They're true.
Right.
You know, he's singing about life, and these things do happen.
It never grows old.
It never grows old because it's real. Not like the music today, which just don't make any sense at all.
Yeah, a lot of times you got some good music and stuff, you know, but the lyrics and stuff, most of them, is just, I don't know, to be desired.
To be desired. Then there's Fetty Wap. Anyway, I digress. We won't go down that road.
So considering that it is Friday and we know what the program is that a significant number of our friends, our colleagues, our family members are now sitting at some watering hole.
Yes. No, we accept that, you know, the phone lines are probably going to be quiet today because it is Friday. It's not bad outside. The sun's been struggling to come out most of the days. We kind of overcast all day long.
I appreciated that overcast, by the way.
Yeah, it was nice and cool today, and I think it was also threatening with some dark, ominous clouds, so we might see some rain tonight. But as I said yesterday or the day before, again, in my cursory scan when I'm bored, I check out the weather sites, and where we might get some rain either over the weekend or into early next week. Either way, we'll never complain when it rains. Rain is a good thing.
Do you enjoy looking up the weather?
Particularly during hurricane season, I just can't help it.
Because there's quite a few people like that.
Yeah. Well, particularly during hurricane season. I want to know what's coming around the next bend.
Can't wait.
Well, I can't wait, but, you know, I want to be aware of it. You know, God bless her. My mom is getting older, and I sort of have responsibility for her. So when there's a storm, you know, I don't want her to get anxious about what's coming.
I'm sorry, I'm chuckling.
Advance notice.
I'm laughing to myself because for some reason I'm sitting there saying, I can see your mother grabbing you, putting you over her shoulder. Come, Austin. And I'm like, Austin, I thought you were looking after her.
Believe me, sometimes I think if she could do that, she probably would do that.
That's mom. That's mom.
Hi, Mom, if you're listening, we love you. Yeah. Talking about you in a good way.
Of course. We love you.
We do. Well, it is Friday, and unlike the rest of the week, which pretty much we've had no guest except for a Monday. Obviously, we had the Honorable Kenneth Bryan as our guest to start our week. And, well, we're going to have a guest today. It's going to be a very exciting guest. You're not going to want to miss the guest. Of course, it is a football, i.e. soccer weekend, with the national team returning home to compete in a CONCACAF World Cup qualifying match against Honduras. That game is going to be played tomorrow at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex. We have a little bit of an update in terms of, you know, their first match in the second round, which we'll talk about at the 5 o'clock hour. But coming up at 5 o'clock to help us discuss really what's going on with the national team, but largely perhaps more broader on the subject of what will it take to develop a World Cup dream team for the Cayman Islands, and obviously, you know, arrive at that future period where Cayman may very well be a regular fixture, if not at the World Cup, then certainly, you know, seeing them perform on the global stage with a bit more success than has been in the past. But Coach Gilly Seymour, Ernie Gilly Seymour. I have to remind myself that Gilly is his nickname and Ernie is the name his mother gave him. So Coach Ernie Gilly Seymour will be our guest in studios, and that conversation kicks off at 5 o'clock. Obviously, we'll talk a bit more about Coach Gilly and the subject that we're covering at the 5 o'clock hour. So if you haven't, as my colleague said, already reached your favorite watering hole location, maybe you might want to stick around and just tune in just for a little while longer. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, they say. So I suspect that drink will still be there whenever you get to it, albeit maybe a few minutes late.
And speaking of the watering hole, I guess I'd say two things. Make sure and share the information about 103.1, your favorite station here, and your favorite talk show.
That's right.
That'd be number one.
That's
and number
right.
two, drink and drive responsibly.
No, absolutely. Those
You
are
don't
two
want
very
anything
good
to happen.
recommendations. Absolutely. Good opportunity to designate a designated driver so the rest of your crew can say, well, I'm a designated drinker tonight. Another country song. Tonight, I'm the designated drinker.
Hey, remember that song? Tonight the bottle let me down.
Yes.
And made her memories come around. Damn, boy.
Boy, wait till the Straight Talk Christmas album comes out. It's going to hit the shelves, but as soon as it hits the shelves, it's going to disappear.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to get in there early, but we'll give you all sorts of opportunities for that.
The bottle.
Speaking of soccer/football, depending on how you define it, the Cayman Islands robotics team is going to showcase this weekend drone soccer, Ellio. Members of the 2024 Cayman Islands national robotics team will be carrying out drone soccer demonstrations at Gardenia Court in Cayman Bay this Saturday, the 7th of June. The sport merges traditional soccer with cutting-edge drone technology with teams of 3 to 5 players each piloting drones in protective round cages. I ain't never seen anything like it before, but
That should be interesting.
it should be very interesting.
That should be fun, actually.
Yeah, the objective apparently is to score by navigating the drones through hoops, otherwise known as goals, positioned at each the opposing ends. To stop your opponent scoring, you defend by pushing the drones out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Which, of course, causes me to ask the question again. If you did that in the game of soccer properly, you get yellow carded. You do it enough, you get red carded, and off you go. But if you push in the other proper game of football, push, tackle, stomp on, that's just part of the game.
That's what I said. That sounds like a real American
It
football.
does sound like the real American football. So I think there's a bit of a combination of a lot of things going on here. But it will be in the form of drones. It sounds exciting and certainly something that we would highly recommend listeners add to their weekend agenda. Apparently, the first demonstration of drone soccer was held a little while ago, 2016. And since then, the sport has spread across the world with more than 30 tournaments held internationally. I tell you, it's only a matter of time before drone soccer finds its way to the Olympics, Ellio. The Cayman Islands robotics team is made up of students, mostly aged between 15 and 16 from various Cayman schools. Again, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds out there doing, flying and probably building drones for this purpose. The future is bright, buddy. The future is bright.
Yeah.
Not only can they fix your cell phone, help you, learn what those buttons really do, but they can do a whole lot more.
And if they can, couple that with a little bit of physical exercise for themselves, and that would be perfect.
It would. The aim of Saturday's event is, I guess, twofold. On the one hand, to enhance robotics education in the local community, as well as to encourage further development of the sport and other showcase opportunities. The event is organized and supported by DART's Minds Inspired Initiative and will offer both an entertaining afternoon as well as a chance for young people to learn about the potential training and career opportunities in the field of robotics. I think this is fantastic news. Giving
Where
us
do you
the
find this stuff, Austin?
Boy, I tell you, I just have my sources, buddy. You got to search far and
I
wide.
can swear
for the
I
good
looked
news.
and I didn't see anything like that.
I tell you, you got to look for the good news. But thank you for proving my point that nobody looks for the good news. When you read the news, people want to for whatever reason here.
They say good news is no news.
Good news is no news. Quite right. Exactly. So
Want to hear about people dying, so, beating someone up.
So as we say all the time, listen, you never have to pick up a newspaper again. You never have to go online and read a digital newspaper ever again. Just stick with us Monday through Friday. We'll share with you the news that truly matters to you, and that will include some of the good news, so you won't be stressed out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there you go. Just trust us to tell you what you need to know, and you can discard the rest.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Is that life you look it up all the time? Getting easier every day.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. That's a bit of good news. Some more good news. Again, I suppose, well, first of all, going from drone soccer, again, reminding folks to turn out in large numbers this Saturday at the Truman Bottom Sports Complex, 7 o'clock, for the second game in the second round of, I think it's Group A. Team Cayman will face off against Honduras. Definitely want to encourage all of our fellow Caymanians. Want to see a lot of flags, want to see a lot of Cayman jerseys, shirts. I want to see a lot of noisemakers, a lot of stompers, some singers, because what's a football game without singers and chants and
I hope you're
whatnot?
not pointing at me, Austin.
Well, I am pointing at you, because if you go, I go.
Well, it's going to be some mixed feelings on that field, I would imagine, because,
You think?
well, here in Cayman, Cayman's relationship with Honduras, there's a lot of family thing going on there,
yes,
so,
yes.
it's like, somos caimaneros, pero también somos catrachos. It's like, which one am I? You just carry two flags, okay?
You see, there you go. Whilst the U.S. is worried about DJT and Elon Musk, I'm going to go to a football game. Forget the game. I'm going to sit there with my popcorn and watch the football fans. Some of these guys are family. One of them go at each other.
Right.
This is better. This is better than cable.
Órale, mijo. Hey, ¿qué estás haciendo, po? You got to speak with a certain. Hey, you ever get these Spaniards to speak with a bit of a tight tongue, Hola, ve.
There you go.
¿Cómo estamos?
It should be a very interesting game at the Truman Bottom Sports Complex, both in the stands and on the field.
Yeah, we're going down there with two flags, I think.
Absolutely. In the not so good news category, we wanted to obviously provide the listeners with an update. Obviously, we continue to send out our thoughts and prayers both to the family as well as to those involved in the search for missing journalist Andrell Harris. I think it's important to point out that we're not related. I had a few calls last night saying, are you and Mr. Harris related since you share the same last name? And I said, no, we're just, both absolutely fine, fantastic, wonderful people.
You sure know
who don't have a relative bloodline between us. But he does have a great last name. I give him that. He does have a fantastic last. And look, his first name is Andrell, so his initials are AH. Again, I love this guy. He's my brother from another mother.
Yeah.
But I
think a safe answer would have been, I'm not 100% sure.
Yes.
Because, boy, let me tell you, this family thing creeps up on you.
That's true, I said, you make a very good point. Not that I'm aware of.
That's what I said. After all, most of the things that actually caused you to be here, we weren't around at the time.
You make a very, very good point. You never really know who family is until somebody wakes you up and go, Bobo, that your cousin,
Yeah, that's it.
Mind what you say.
And then people always ask you stuff like, Ellio, is that baby for that lady there? Hold on a minute. How in the world would I know? Was I there?
Because you know everybody. That's the thing.
No, but the thing is that you're actually asking for something to which I cannot, at this particular point in time, provide the evidence. I really wasn't there. You know what I'm saying?
You weren't present.
Please,
at the time.
please understand me.
It's funny you say that because without going into too much details, obviously we ended the show last night. We came downstairs talking to a gentleman whose name, of course, I couldn't remember off the bat. But as he walked towards you, there you were, Johnny on the spot. Hey, blah, 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 blah. I was thinking to myself as he walked away from me towards you, I said, go Ellio. For a guy who says with names, you're doing pretty good, buddy. You really are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You really are.
Thanks for reminding me about that. This is how I lose $10 to $15 every day, at least,
Yes. No.
Hey, Ellio, you're my friend. Check me. Hey. There we go.
Well, back to, again, my cousin, my brother from another mother, Mr. Andrell Harris. Again, the search continues for Mr. Harris, trying to locate him. He's been missing, obviously, since Tuesday. A missing persons report was issued Wednesday, and since that time, there really has been a full court press rolled out in efforts to find Mr. Harris. At 12:05 this afternoon, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service issued a statement stating that an item of clothing was spotted in the water during searches that were carried out yesterday. It had been recovered, examined by police, and afterwards confirmed that the item of clothing did in fact belong to Mr. Andrel Harris. Ground, aerial, and coastal searches conducted in the Pedro St. James area began on Wednesday and were continuing all the way through until today with a multi-agency effort that included police, the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, along with many, many members of the public and other agencies. As I said before, authorities have exercised a full court press in this search, even with Hazard Management Cayman partially activating the Emergency Operations Center, which included coordinating efforts of some of its emergency support teams. These included the community emergency response teams, first aid services being provided by the Red Cross Cayman, a call center for volunteer coordination was set up, and even Cayman mental health support were present today and have been for the last 2 days. Also, the Cayman Islands Baptist Church, located on Pedro Castro Road, was made available and even utilized as the command center over the past few days. Several teams, including emergency workers and members of the public, conducted both grid and line searches, which included door-to-door checks and even the RCIPS gathering footage from the CCTV cameras. So it has been an absolutely full court press and all hands on deck as we seek to try to find our friend. And again, we can only pray to Almighty Father that if he is still, in fact, alive, that God watches over him and certainly brings him back to us, his families in particular. But it is, I mean, he's been missing since Tuesday. I don't want to. Well, I don't want to suggest that it's all is lost, but certainly hopes are starting to dwindle from search and rescue to more recovery now.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to say. As the days go on, there's a gravity that sort of sinks in, right? And it's like, oh boy, this is not looking good.
It's not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
The Coast Guard conducted search operations on the ocean and used data from the Cayman Islands National Weather Service to refine areas. These included, get this, the use of underwater equipment, which aided visual searches. So they're looking above the waves and below the waves. Thank you to the Coast Guard for obviously rolling out. Again, also thank you to the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service helicopter and the air services for running its various missions. And throughout the day, I kept looking up and seeing a number of Cessna planes constantly in the air. And, of course, that suggested to me that was the aerial searches that were going on.
Well, speaking of that, my mind went, as we were talking about the searches, to the satellites. I don't know the specifics, but I would imagine that satellites do a significant amount of recording, picture taking, and so on, because I have seen somewhat of archive footage, if you like, from satellites. And I wonder if that's something that could probably aid in things like this.
Perhaps indeed. It's a very good point. I'm sure the authorities, to include Hazard Management, obviously playing the coordinating arm amongst a number of different departments and branches, are using every available resource. And so it appears anyway. But thank you for that point. I think satellite would certainly be an opportunity.
Stuff that you can zoom in and see somebody walking in your front yard now. And I would just like to believe that somewhere you could probably reach out to some of these. I mean, Elon being one of them,
right?
Although they're in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, he's a little preoccupied right now. He might not be able to answer your email right away.
But yeah, I mean, specifically, you would be narrowing it down to a particular time frame, right? A day or whatever. And just really just over a 24-hour period, just scouring the area via pictures, videos that those satellites would have captured.
Yes.
I think somebody really needs to look into that. I would like to believe that that's possible.
Sure.
I mean, these military-grade stuff, I mean, trust me, let's not fool ourselves.
Yeah.
They're probably looking into your bedroom if they want, right?
Oh, absolutely. And, again, to the point of, military grade, you got to assume, or we know, that the police helicopter also uses infrared radar, which, of course, seeks things like heat, and perhaps that works better during the night. I'm sure they have thermal cameras specifically for that purpose, perhaps to initially designed to locate drug canoes, which are low slung to the water. But perhaps they'll use these technologies are in use, and perhaps they are in use over the course of the last few days. The police have requested that anyone who has seen journalist Andrell Harris since he was last reported seen on Tuesday afternoon, or if they know of his current whereabouts, to call either 911 or the Bordentown Police Station at 947-2220. Yesterday, I think we mentioned there were also two other numbers. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, 945-4624 or 946-55. Sorry, 949-6555. Excuse me, 949-6555, 945-4624 or 947-2220. That is, of course, outside of the traditional 911 as well. Just very quickly, at 56 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock, we've also been asked to announce the March for Jesus 2025 that is taking place also this Saturday. It will be held both on foot, by bike, by motorcycle, and by motorcade. This year's theme, Jesus is our only hope. Join Christians across the island for a powerful march for Jesus, a joyful procession of praise through the streets of Grand Cayman, boldly proclaiming the lordship, majesty, and supremacy of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We will gather in unity and end in grand worship because it is all about Jesus and nothing else. Don't miss this public declaration of faith, hope, and love. For more information, you can email info@christian.ky or you can call 929-6657. And that is, again, the March for Jesus 2025 this Saturday, the 7th of June. Unfortunately, no time is listed on this notice that we received, but again, you can email info@christian.ky or call 929-6657 for more details. At 57, now almost 58 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock.
Which time we have?
We have a minute 45 seconds.
I want to say something really quick.
Go ahead.
So, and again, great news about the March for Jesus. You and I should get out there, Austin.
We should.
No excuses.
It'll be a busy weekend for us. March for Jesus, go check out a football game. Then we got drone soccer to show up.
You got all kinds of things to do.
Yeah.
So I just want to say congratulations to two proud parents. And you can join me in this, Mr. Harris, to Miss Monique Hamilton-Simmons, and, of course, her husband, Marcus, for their son, Brandon, who was just accepted in UCLA.
Oh,
so
fantastic. Well done.
No, they're not expecting me to do this. I'm just doing it as a bit of a good embarrassment. But I had the pleasure of been meeting him for the last several months and been chatting with him. Very intelligent young man. He's went here to, just for clarity, school in Cayman, like Grace Academy, also went to Cayman Islands Prep School. Okay. But now his next chapter is now he's been accepted at UCLA. We understand that he's most likely going to be a doctor. No, not football. He's going to be a doctor.
All right.
We do declare. Congratulations, Brandon. Of course, congratulations to two wonderful persons and proud parents, Miss Monique Hamilton-Simmons and Mr. Marcus Simmons.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Monique and Marcus, and congratulations, Brandon, on a fantastic achievement. The next step in your life journey is soon to begin, and it's got to be a very exciting time.
And I'm just hoping I don't have to meet him on a sort of hospital basis.
Let's hope not. Well, while we're at it, a good friend of mine, Amanda Brown, is celebrating a birthday today. You know Amanda.
I know Amanda Brown.
Today is her birthday, so happy birthday from Straight Talk. Ellio and Austin.
Oh, happy birthday, Amanda.
Yes, indeed. It is 59 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock. We're going to pause, take a short commercial break, but more Straight Talk.
Bobo.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
A vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. The BBC is the world's most trusted news source. And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to talk shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman, on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority. At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands. Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. A man who was wrongly deported from the United States to El Salvador 3 months ago is now back in the US. The abrupt removal of Kilmar Abrego Garcia in March prompted a row between the White House and the judiciary. The Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration should facilitate his return. Our North America correspondent Jake Kwan reports.
The deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia was the first time the White House admitted to making a mistake in its mass deportation policy. After months of stonewalling the court order, the Trump administration finally brought him back. But there is a catch. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said Mr. Abrego Garcia would face 2 human trafficking charges. Without presenting evidence, she accused him of making more than 100 trips across the U.S., transporting criminal gang members and illegal migrants, including children. The Attorney General also alleged that he'd abused trafficked women and transported illegal firearms and drugs, but brought no such charges.
Republican politicians and supporters in the US have sought to contain the public row that exploded on Thursday between Donald Trump and his former advisor Elon Musk. White House officials say the president has no immediate plans to speak to Mr. Musk. The 2 men began trading insults and threats online after the president said he was disappointed by his former advisor's criticism of a major spending bill. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, says he hopes they can resolve their differences.
I was surprised by Elon's sudden opposition, and look, I hope they reconcile. I believe in redemption. That's part of my worldview, and I think it's good for the party and the country if all that's worked out.
The Russian mercenary group Wagner says it's leaving Mali after fighting Islamist militants there for 3.5 years. The Malian army and Wagner fighters have been accused of rights abuses. Jihadist attacks have also been intensifying this month. Nkechi Obona has this report.
In a post on its official Telegram channel, Wagner claims to have destroyed thousands of militants and their commanders, who they say terrorized civilians. The group claims that all regional capitals formerly held by jihadists have been regained by the state, so its mission is complete. Despite Wagner's exit from Mali, Russian forces will still be playing an active role in the country's security landscape through the Africa Corps, a rival Russian paramilitary group that is directly affiliated with the Russian Defense Ministry.
Rescuers in Gaza say 38 people have been killed in Israeli strikes across the territory on Friday. They say 11 died in a single attack in the northern city of Jabalia. In a separate incident, the Israeli military says 4 of its soldiers were killed and 5 wounded in an explosion after entering a booby-trapped house in southern Gaza's Khan Yunis. The blast caused the building to collapse and fall on the soldiers. You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. Syrian state media say the country's highest Sunni Muslim authority has issued a religious edict forbidding revenge attacks. The ruling by the Higher Fatwa Council insisted that all serious grievances must instead be settled by the courts. It follows recent deadly outbreaks of sectarian violence. In March, security forces and allied groups are reported to have killed more than 1,700 mostly Alawite civilians. The police in Togo have fired tear gas to disperse a rare anti-government demonstration in the capital Lomé. Young people and civil society activists had used social media to encourage people to gather to denounce a crackdown on dissent. This report from Will Ross.
In opposition strongholds of the capital Lomé, police fired tear gas to stop these turning into large protests. Journalists were detained and had to erase their footage, an attempt to stop the news getting out. Dissent is not tolerated in Togo. Many young people are angry at the recent arrest of a popular rapper, Amron, who's often critical of the government. Last year, the constitution was amended. Critics say it was done in order to extend President Faure Gnassingbé's time in office. He took over in 2005 after succeeding his father, Eyadema, who had been in power for nearly 4 decades.
Donald Trump has signed an executive order lifting a half-century ban on commercial supersonic flights over the United States. A White House technology spokesman said advances in engineering and noise reduction made supersonic flights safe and commercially viable. He said passengers should be able to fly from New York to Los Angeles in under 4 hours. At the French Open Tennis Championship, the world number one, Jannik Sinner, is set to face the title holder, Carlos Alcaraz, in the men's final on Sunday. Sinner obtained his place in the final by beating Novak Djokovic, who had been hoping to win a record-breaking 25th Grand Slam tournament. Alcaraz secured his place when his semi-final opponent, Lorenzo Musetti, retired injured. BBC News.
Views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcast live on YouTube and Facebook, both at the Straight Talk Radio Show page as well as on the ACT Cruise Tourism page. Welcome back with your host, Ellio Solomon, myself, Austin Harris, as we move into our substantive conversation of the evening on this Friday. But we did just very quickly, kind of got caught out, as the term would be used in cricket.
It was a great gotcha, though. It sounded great.
It was a great gotcha.
Yeah,
we got
great.
Caught out there at the end in our celebrations, both to, first of all, Monique and Marcus Simmons on the great news of their son, Brandon,
absolutely
being accepted to UCLA. What a wonderful opportunity. Wishing Brandon all the very best. And one more time, just for good measure, because I really didn't give you a chance to say much, but happy birthday to our good friend Amanda Brown, who's celebrating a birthday today.
We should say, I love you, Amanda.
We should, shouldn't we?
I didn't hear you say it, though.
You didn't hear it? I thought it spoke for both of us.
We love you, Amanda.
We might sing happy birthday to you maybe later on, but we'll see what happens. It'll definitely be on the Christmas album, put it that way. But we do have a guest in studio. Ellio may want to have a quick look at that. And it is my pleasure to introduce him to you, the listening audience. Earlier on, of course, we were talking about it's going to be a football weekend, whether it be for drone soccer or, more importantly, an opportunity to watch the national team compete in a World Cup qualifier here at home at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex this Saturday. And with us in studios to help to dissect a little bit of that, but more importantly, look at football on much broader terms, we have the pleasure of Coach Ernie Gilly Seymour, who is going to be our guest in studios. Coach Gilly has served for, my goodness, more than a quarter of a century in the Department of Sports before retiring in 2022. During his over 26-year career, he also founded the Cayman Athletic Sports Club, where he trained hundreds of Cayman footballers. I think of notable mention that same club, Cayman Athletic Sports Club, became one of the most successful football teams in the Cayman Islands Football Association Domestic League, claiming 3 consecutive under-15 league titles, the Men's FA Cup, and the Charity Shield. I dare say, and I could be corrected, but I don't think so, I don't think any team has managed that feat since. However, perhaps his most notable achievement in football was in 2015 when he led the Cayman national team to its first national medal during the 2015 Caribbean Football Union Boys Under-15 Championship. Coach Seymour, is also a recipient of a gold medal of merit and a pioneer of sports at a not too distant Cayman, what was it? What are they called? Cayman, when you win the nomination. My goodness, I just had it on the tip of my tongue and I've lost it. National Heroes Day. Oh. That's what it was. Thank you very much, Austin. I tell you, my brain is sometimes always there. Coach Gilly has also coached a number of prominent people in the Cayman Islands, including the likes of the Honorable Deputy Governor Franz Manderson and our very good friend, and I might say Triple C alumni, Cabinet Secretary Samuel Rose. He joins us in studios today.
And we just lately elected Michael Miles.
And he coached, yes, there you go. Thank you very much. The new Minister for Labor, the Honorable Michael Miles, also listed in Coach Gilly's very attractive and very prominent biography. He joins us in studios today to discuss the topic of building a World Cup team. What does it take to shape a national team that is ready for the global stage? Coach Gilly, welcome to the program. Great to have you as our guest. An opportunity for some opening remarks.
Well, it's always nice to be here with you, Austin, and my friend Ellio next to me. You know, it's been a while, I haven't seen him, but he still have that smile, you know.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you too.
Yeah, and it's always nice to talk about the beautiful game of football, as Pele calls it, you know.
Absolutely. And I failed to mention in the weekend's lineup, obviously we're talking about encouraging the listening audience to show up for the national team game on Saturday, the 7th of June. But also Sunday, the 8th of June, at the same location, the Truman Biden Sports Complex, starting at 3 p.m. The Under-9 Boys All-Star Game will take place. Then at 4:15, we have the Under-11 Girls All-Star Game. And then from 5:30 to 6:45, there'll be the Under-11 Boys All-Star Game. 3 fantastic matches taking place all at the same location, the Truman Biden Sports Complex, on Sunday, June 8th. It could very well be a very exciting football weekend for everyone.
They were the elite kids from the primary school competition that just finished.
Okay.
Was selected by their coaches.
All right.
To put on the show and display their talent.
All right.
And that's where the national team should build from.
Yes.
Right there.
So I want to just start off, if you don't mind me, Austin, jumping in. I mean, I know you've been doing this for a very long time, but I definitely think I would be interested, and so would the public, to understand, how did you get into soccer, and just walk us through a little bit of how you got to where you are now.
How I got into football?
Into football in the first place.
Well, just going on by the annex and playing with my friends.
Right.
You know, so I started down there.
While you were in school?
I got a couple of whippings in my backside for going down there, but I still kept going.
Yeah. Because you just love the game.
Yeah. And how I got into coaching actually was Renard Moxham called me up one day. We were all national team players.
Okay.
And
yeah, I remember when I was much younger, seeing a lot of photographs and stuff of Mr. Renard in the soccer team.
You know, Mr. Marshall and Michael Alberga and Christine Guilfoyle, David Guilfoyle, they had a group of under 12 kids at the annex, and they needed a coach. Mm-hmm. So they asked Renard, because Renard at that time was our star player.
Right.
But he had just opened a sports store, and he couldn't go. So he called me up and he said, Gil, you know, you need to go there and help them. And I said, well, I don't know anything about coaching. He said, just teach them what you know.
As simple as that.
And it started right there. And I went down there, and they found it with a bunch of kids, and it started right there in 1984.
Wow. And you never looked back, clearly?
No, I couldn't. I was the chosen one.
You were Well, certainly you took those skills, again, on the field. You took them to the Ministry or the Department of Sports, and I'm sure you had a very rewarding career there within the government itself, retiring in 2022. Do you miss the day-to-day?
Yes. My body was used to being active, so it kind of like feels it when you slow down a little bit too much. But I try to keep active by still marking the fields and
I wanted to get one little bit closer to this.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so I try to stay involved a little bit. I don't coach as much as I used to, but still be involved a lot with the marking of the fields. In fact, like I said, all the international field games that Caymanas played for the past 30-odd years, I'm the person who marked the fields. Even when I was the national coach, I marked the fields. And I just did this one for the game against Honduras. So.
Wow.
So I imagine when you do something, we see this with a lot of different things, games as well as just, skills, certain jobs. You do something for a significant, long period of time, you can probably almost look at someone within a matter of minutes, to use that expression, and kind of say, hey, that kid's got talent.
Yeah, we spot talent like that. You just look at him and right away
you know something's there.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, Coach Gilly, obviously we don't have, we got about an hour and a half to spend together. But as we have known from past efforts and past collaborations, that hour and a half goes by very quickly.
Right.
So we want to get on to the crux of today's discussion, starting with what's happening on the field, certainly this week and again this weekend with the Cayman Islands national football team. They are competing in the second round of the CONCACAF 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. And again, they have their second round game tomorrow at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex against Honduras. But they had their first game on Wednesday against Bermuda. And what started as, all of us celebrating what was the historic significance of a Cayman national football team making it or qualifying for the second round. I believe this squad may have been the first to do so. That was a reason to celebrate. But we see in their first game of the second round, they suffered a rather embarrassing defeat at the hands of Bermuda, 5-0. Some thoughts and feedback on that?
Well, I think, and we don't want to kind of mix it up there. One stage that they play in is the Nations Cup, which they qualify from the C back to the B. Mm-hmm. So that's different. Now, this is the World Cup qualifiers. Right. And in the World Cup qualifiers, it's no second round. It's just the format has changed a little. See, it's going to give an opportunity to possibly more teams from CONCACAF qualifying, because normally it's 3. Mm-hmm. So the Cayman Islands, how this one is set up, they don't pay no home and away. You get 2 home games and 2 away games.
Okay.
So I think they played Antigua and Barbuda or something like that first.
Yes, it was Antigua and Barbuda that qualified them to move to.
They won that first game against them, and then we forfeit the match to Cuba because of the problems with the passports and thing, in the especially our college kids going over to Cuba, and then the U.S. putting some stigma on top of whether you go to Cuba or not, what would happen to you if you might not be able to enter back into the U.S. Okay. So we end up forfeiting that match.
I see.
And then the third game was against Bermuda.
Right. All right.
Which is the second away game, because the first away game would have been Cuba.
Right.
So now the second home game now was against Honduras.
I see. All right. Well, they're again on Wednesday. They lost 5-0, leaving Cayman severely dented in terms of perhaps advancing any further. They have an opportunity to redeem themselves, obviously, tomorrow at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex, but it's now become less about qualifying for the World Cup and more about, obviously, going in for a bit of self-respect, but also perhaps, pushing them into further development mode, as the case may be. But clearly, as a coach, as a former player, what's going through the minds of members of the national team tonight as they prepare for Honduras, so close on the heels to that loss against Bermuda?
I can't really say what's going through their mind. I know probably some of the young players are probably nervous, knowing the caliber of the Honduras team. Because the Honduras team is a lot of seasoned professional players who plays football on a full-time basis. The sad thing about us qualifying for the World Cup is that we are a small nation in FIFA and CONCACAF.
Right.
It's 41 member nations in CONCACAF, 41. And in the past, only 3 could qualify to the World Cup finals. So you go through stages. You got the preliminary stage, and then you got the second round, third round, and then you have the final round, which comes out like 6 teams. And normally those 6 teams is like Mexico, USA, Panama, Costa Rica, maybe Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, the Central American countries, mostly, Canada, they're the big guns, so it's really hard to get past them because the level that their players are playing at. Can we get our players to that level? Yes, we can, but it's going to take a lot of ingredients to make that cake.
Right.
The winning is just the icing on the cake, but you don't really need the icing to eat the cake, but you need the ingredients. And the ingredients to build up amateur players to compete at that international level can be done. People say, oh, well, Honduras got thousands of players and we only got so much, but there's only 11 versus 11. So it's the individual that we build up.
Right.
I send you a list of the Jordan Crooks in the Green Street and Sudan Melissa and our young Jaden Reed and Devontae Howell, and they can tell you what it takes to train at the next level to get to where, especially Jordan Crooks, to be a world record holder.
Right.
And this is no piece of the cake. You got to put in some serious physical training. Your diet is important. Your rest is important. So, football is built on 4 pillars: the physical, the technical, the tactical, and the psychological.
Well, we want to talk about each of those as we explore, as you say, the ingredients necessary to build a world championship team. But certainly when we talk about, small jurisdictions, I was thinking about this just today. Wouldn't it be safe to say that Cayman could very well be the smallest?
All the smallest, U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands, all of them participates in the World Cup. We plays in the World Cup. Like I told you, Cayman plays in the World Cup. But at what stage? We at the preliminary stage. Now, if we want to go on to the final stage, which everybody watches on the television, if we want to go there, we got to put the ingredients in. There's got to be investment from the government. There's got to be investment from the private sector. But like FIFA said one time, we will give $1 million, the government give $1 million, and the private sector give $1 million towards your programs. And, you try. That's when Jack won and then was in charge of football. I think Bermuda was one of the few countries that did that. It takes funding, good funding, to be able to get the guys in training on a full-time, like my friend Roy William say. In Holland, they train their talented players every day. Every day.
Right.
It's like going to work 9 to 5.
Indeed.
So are you saying, because I think a lot of persons listening, again, just to spell it out, because I think we're touching on it, but persons saying, why is it that our team can't make it as far as the other guy, or why did we have to lose? And we're talking about, in essence, how do we get those good players? So let me start off with where I left off on the first question as I work my way forward. You talk about being able to look at a person and identify that particular individual has a certain level of skills, talent, whatever. What are some of those things that jump out at you when you see someone and you say that kid could go far? Okay, well, one of the things that we notice with a good footballer is his touch. What you call touch. Like when the ball goes to him, when he touches it, what he does. We look at his ball handling skill, because the coordination is a ball plays a significant role in a child's life. All children, whether it's a football, basketball, with some kind of ball, plays a role. And they have their motor skills, how they tumble, they fall, or they roll. They have how they move their body, they have the agility. That's like almost like natural. Right. So there's those certain things that you now need to be able to say, okay, that one, he has that, and we need to work on enhancing it.
Yeah, right. So we got to focus now on making sure he's getting proper rest. He has a diet, proper diet, and the training has to be. It depends on the stage too. The child.
Yeah.
With your physical training, certain stages you don't really focus on physical, especially the grassroots stage. You focus on the technique and stuff like that, but not on the physical. The physical naturally comes along with them running up and down and chasing behind the ball and stuff, But then when you get out that what we call like the adult stage where the bone structure is different, then you can start applying like the weight training, weight.
Well, without me putting words in your mouth, they oftentimes say with a lot of different things in terms of skills and certain accomplishments that have things like the 10,000-hour rule, that you need to spend a certain amount of hours doing something in order to be really good at it. Is that the same thing that you're referring to now in soccer, that you need to put in a certain amount of time, and if you don't do that, you just won't be able to get to that stage?
Because like in some countries, like you say, when our kids in the league here play like maybe 10 games, in some countries the players are playing 40 games.
Right.
And they're playing more. So it's like if you go to the gym and you overload, you get stronger. You know that process, right?
Sure.
So It's the same thing with the training. You know, if you want to build endurance, you got to train to run for a long period of time. You know,
rather consistently.
Yeah. So that's another problem that we have in our national team is that our players, being amateur players, sometimes don't understand the endurance running, which is very important because it's 90 minutes and then possibly an extra half an hour depending on what kind of game you're playing. Because if it's a cup game, you could end
that's a lot of that.
You could end up playing for 2 hours.
That's a lot of mileage.
Yeah, you know, and then again, a big part of the game is that not on the ball. You got to do a lot of running without the ball. Remember now, it's 22 players in the game, 1 ball, and then that player with the ball won't have it for a couple of seconds. So in a full 90-minute game, a top professional player might have the ball for 1 minute. Maybe a Maradona might have it, or Pele might have it a minute and a half, or Lionel Messi might have it a minute and a half. The average player is only 1 minute. So for the next 98 minutes, he's actually physically running up and down, keeping the position.
That's the real minute to win it.
Psychologically, he has to stay focused because it's easy to lose focus.
Well, so you seem to be suggesting that, again, they're just not able to put in enough of the time. And I believe I probably have the answer to this question, but why is our players not being able to put in the time to get those 40 games like our competitors are?
But so much other commitments. I mean, some of them work 9 to 5 jobs. So you got to know how to train the 9 to 5 worker. The 9 to 5 worker can compete with the professional player. So we always say, oh, because they're pros, they're better. No, see, I have a manual here. I attended the Medical and Exercise Science Department Physical Fitness for International Competition course in Trinidad in May 2004. The instructor in charge of that course was a doctor for all of England national teams. And he said, it's no excuse because we are Caribbean team amateur players that we cannot prepare the 9 to 5 worker to compete against the professional player. It's the preparation. What do we do? For example, they ask, what days do we train? We say we normally train Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then rest Friday and play Saturday, Sunday. So he said, well, what do your players do on Mondays and Wednesdays? We said, nothing. He said, well, then they can go to the gym. On a Monday, you can do legs, because you don't want to do legs close to the game. So you do legs on a Monday, and then you do upper body on a Wednesday, and you strengthen him up, you get him strong, physically strong, to compete against the Honduras and the El Salvador and the USA and thing. All the players from Mexico, USA, and Canada, those teams that is competing at the top level, physical condition, and you can beat it there. Physical condition is the key.
Indeed. Well, I think we certainly have had our first breakthrough in the discussion as to what are the ingredients towards building a national team, because we always have heard it in Cayman. The reason we can't compete is because our players have those 9 to 5 jobs, because they can't commit, 7 days a week to nothing but football, eat, sleep, and drink football. They need to be paid in order to do so, because obviously they have lives. But what you're stating here is quite unique and different from that argument, suggesting, yes, that would be nice in a perfect world where funding is available, and maybe it's something for us to talk about. But given our current circumstance and challenges, of course, the funding is a major issue, both at the club level, certainly at the association level, and certainly thereafter the public and private sector level. But what you're saying here is the 9 to 5 player can be trained, can be brought up to that level to compete on the global stage, but it appears that there are still significant shortfalls, and that is what I want to pick up on when we come back. But it is 29 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock, and we do have to pause, take a really short commercial break. The way they've been this week, it'll be a quick one, quick back. So keep it right where you are. Our conversation with Coach Ernie Gilly Seymour on building a globally ready football team continues next right here on Straight Talk on Bobo FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
The Cayman Turtle Center's Turtle Crawl 5K is back, Sunday, June 8th, starting from the Cayman Turtle Center at 6:30 a.m. Registration is 25 CI and includes a race shirt and a goodie bag. All funds raised will support conservation of green sea turtles in the Cayman Islands. Corporate discounts are available by emailing info@turtle.ky. Register now for the Turtle Crawl 5K at turtlecrawl.ky. Proudly sponsored by Stingray Media, Double M Distribution, Health City, and Gatorade.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority, committed to caring for you. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, Cayman, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM as we move into our Friday end of week closing episode for this week. And what a discussion we're having with our special guest in studios, Coach Ernie Gilly Seymour, on the subject, building a World Cup team. What does it take to shape a national team that is ready for the global stage, not just to participate, but to shine? And obviously having, a very enlightened discussion prior to the break, we got past the natural, almost commonly accepted myth that says in order for Cayman teams to succeed, they have to eat, sleep, and drink football 7 days
what I've always heard
do
too.
nothing else.
Yeah.
And what is stopping them from doing that now? Well, they need to be paid. Well, Coach Gilly has debunked that notion in his first round. Let's see where else we can take it. Ellio.
Yeah, no, so if I'm understanding you correct, I mean, it sounds to me like you're saying, you come out, you can look at a kid, and you're able to see some natural talent and stuff that's there, and you want to build on top of that in terms of offering up different techniques and, further skills. But really what it takes in terms of perhaps going to that next stage, let's call it that, is a matter that you have to train and get so physically strong that it's not going to be a case that when you get the ball after running around now for the past hours, your turn now. The ball's finally in your court. It's on your legs now. You're not weak. You're still strong because you're so physically fit that you can still do all the skills and agility that you could do if you had just started fresh.
Right.
It sounds like that's what you're saying to me, right?
Yeah, because when you get fatigued,
you get fatigued.
When you get fatigued, you become you're dysfunctional.
Right.
You lose focus.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to stay into a game for a long period of time without having the ball and things, you need mental, physical strength.
Yeah. And basically what you were saying that the good little doctor would have said in 2004 is that you can be, even if you're not playing, you can be in the gym, you can be running, you can be doing certain things that allows you to reach that level of physicality.
Right. And think about this in terms of like the player preparing himself to play for the national team. You got to be disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be disciplined that you know that when it's time to get your rest.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I said, diet, exercise, and rest.
Right.
It goes together. But if you get the diet and the exercise and no rest, you're going to break down.
Right.
If you're getting the rest and exercise and not proper diet, you're going to break down. So
the three of those things got to be there.
Got to be put in, to really to develop. And remember now, when people talk about payment, you become a top amateur before you get paid as a professional. When you become a professional, when somebody actually say, I'm going to give Austin a salary for playing, but you was a top amateur before you were selected. Like you say,
you kind of ought to reach the top of your game.
You were spotted by that scout because when you go to like Holland and those places, when you go to watch all the games play, hundreds and hundreds of scouts is inside of the stadium with their pads just looking at the players from the same team they're competing against. They're scouting your players.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So scouts are always looking for players, and they watch what you do off the ball,
right?
Not just what you do on the ball. When Austin lose that ball, what do he do? Do he stand up? Do he get back and help? You know, do he get into the proper position? And you need physical condition to be able to do that. The play break down, you went forward, the play break down. You need to get back to help your team defend. You may be winning the game. You got how many goals it takes to win a match? One goal, right? So if you got that one goal and the other team is trying to get the equalizer, you need the forwards. Everybody has to get back and help.
Right.
So you talk about this little triad of things that's required. What is there any particular area that you think we're falling down on in terms of the discipline? Is it a case that pretty decent diet, pretty decent exercise, but want to go out and party, or what happens?
What happened is that we find so much excuses. We find so much excuses for our players. And the players are full of excuses, and they know that somebody's going to buy into the excuse, so they use them. You know, they complain about this coach that we have. They complain that he's training too hard. He wants to train on the grass fields in Bodden Town, and they don't want to train on the grass fields. There are all things that I heard, you know.
Wow.
You got to train on grass because you're going to play at Truman Bodden. Now, why should the national coach have to be searching for a grass field to prepare the national team? We're having issues with using Truman Bodden, and then having issues with going to Bodden Town because the field there is not proper surface. You know, some of the players don't want to train. But the same players who didn't want to train with the national team in Bodden Town goes there to play their league games, you know. But then if that's the case, that we need proper surface, then the government needs to get in there, everybody get in there and get their fees up to standard. And what I'm saying is, if we got the golf courses, they're down there by the sea with all those pretty greens, nice and level, one type of grass growing through it, why isn't it that our football fields are not the same? Come on, something is wrong.
My colleague asked a very important question. And again, he said, what seems to be missing from our players? Is it diet? Is it fitness? But what your answer tells us is that amongst the myriad of challenges that face our national teams, the problems you just mentioned are problems that exist outside of the national team. The coordination effort as to what field they're going to play on, the discipline effort in terms of what rules national team players are obligated to follow when they're selected for a national team. These are questions that shouldn't fall on the coach or the players to answer in preparing for rather regional or global sort of national events. These are questions that should be dealt with by a committee or an association. So I'll ask you, when we talk about the national team of the Cayman Islands, what role does the association play? What role does the government play in terms of preparing the fixtures and the training and other things that go into preparing that team?
You want me to say something? I was in Bradenton, Texas, Bradenton, Florida, with on the 20 national team and the 20 workout qualifiers. And the uniform that came out had CIFA on it, which is Cayman Islands Football Association,
right? Which
should not have been, because the national team is not representing CIFA, not the Cayman Islands Football Association. That's the problem. The problem is that the Cayman Islands Football Association have too much responsibility of being in charge of the national team's preparation.
Well, who should be if it shouldn't be them?
Hold a minute. So a guy, George, from one of those South American countries that was, coming around to try to help Cayman. He wanted to come to Cayman to help, and stuff like that. He came into the room and he said, guys, listen to me. You're not representing CIFA today. You're representing the Cayman Islands.
Okay.
And when you look at the standings, it's not Honduras playing against CIFA. It's Honduras playing against the Cayman Islands. So the Cayman Islands is what? Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. So when those guys go there to represent those three islands, support should be coming from all three of those islands. Because when we went to Las Vegas years ago, we took our team there for like 7 years straight to the Mayor's Cup. When we got there, we were representing the Cayman Islands. All of the people were talking about how the players were so disciplined, how they cleaned up the bench after the game was over. But the American kids just left the cups on the ground. All the kids cleaned up the bench and put the cups inside of the bin. Little did they know, Gilles Seymour told them, if you don't clean up my bench, you're not playing with me anymore. That's where I came from. That's not how we grow. Even here today, still, my players still have to clean up the bench, even though they have someone to clean up the bench. But anyhow, people need to understand that the support for the national team needs to come from the three islands, not from the Football Association.
Well, when you say that, does that mean, therefore, that you believe the government should be the ones handling the logistics and discipline, and vis-a-vis the government, it would be the Department of Sports or some offset of that specifically for the national team. Is that what you're saying?
The football association, I mean, the Commanders Football Association manages the national team, but the bigger support needs to come from the government. And if then the private sector can inject something in there also.
But it sounds like you're saying that you just don't have enough Caymanians coming out to support their teams.
Well, not just coming out to support them when they play, but just supporting them with all the needs, all the things that they need to put the ingredients inside of the thing.
But you also can only have one head chef, is my point here. So, I mean, you just stated, just very clearly, that the national team is not representing CIFA. But at the same token, you've also just said CIFA, the Cayman Islands Football Association, manages the team. So my question again, if not CIFA, the Cayman Islands Football Association, preparing, selecting, and getting the team ready to play the various games, including the logistics of training, finding the field, finding the gyms, scheduling the events, enforcing discipline. If not CIFA, then who should have overarching responsibility for the national team?
Governments can't really interfere too much into football in terms of who running the football and stuff like that. But they should be working in collaboration with the people. So, for example, whoever is in charge of CIFA needs to be working in collaboration with the government in terms of the proper preparation for your national team, which is representing the 3 islands.
And when we say government, would you recommend, I mean, again, you spent 26 years in the Department of Sports, so would someone or an entity of that department potentially be that government contact, or if not them, who?
For my 26 years there, the relationship was poor. And I'm not afraid to say so.
But can it be improved on, is my question.
It can be if we address it like how we're addressing it now.
Okay.
Because this is what the problem is. A lot of people are afraid to speak out because they feel I'm going to offend Ellio if I speak out.
Right.
I'm gonna step on somebody's toes. So I'm afraid to say this because I'm going to hurt this one's feeling or that one feeling. But I don't care about that. That's your problem. Like Roy Williams said, sometimes you just got to hurt some. You know what Roy said here? He said, Caymanians need to separate their emotions from their passion. Emotion is about someone doing well and getting on. Passion is about liking or disliking that person and what people do to influence that progress. People in Cayman need to be more objective.
Yes.
And we're afraid to be objective. Our players in the national team are afraid to be objective of the reprimand that they're going to get. We got good players that speak out and it was reprimanded. And that's not right. Their voice should be heard.
As I listen to my colleague, I mean, I want to underscore what he's saying because I guess from his perspective and maybe mine, we're not 100% understanding who is supposed to champion this, that really make it that we can get where we want to get. Is it a case that we're supposed to get a minister of sports that's going to finally get up and say, this is going to happen and I'm going to make it happen? Or is it a case that should be coming from CIFA?
Well, the minister's supposed to need to get involved in what's happening with you. Because remember now, whenever Jordan Crooks got into the Olympics and was swimming well, the minister's supposed was there in the stands, praising up. So the minister's supposed to need to be here with the footballers too, and the basketballers, and the cricketers, and everybody. The minister's supposed to that's why he's the minister of sports.
Right. Okay.
So he has to step in and play his role also. Remember now, where does funding come from for CIFA?
You tell me.
Well, I can tell you right now, majority of the funding that comes to CIFA that keeping Cayman Islands football afloat is from FIFA and CONCACAF.
I see. And there was
not from the Cayman Islands government.
And there was a time, I mean, let's also be honest, when we reflect on where we are now, where we've come from. Football, both locally and globally, has been dealt a hell of a blow. We talk, of course, about, the FIFA scandal. We have our own Jeff Webb involved, and that damaged, of course, the Cayman Islands Football Association's chances. That also damaged the whole funding partnership between government giving X and FIFA giving Y so that the sport itself can continue to develop. We're sort of fighting back on the back foot from those unfortunate, embarrassing days. But it appears to me that whilst we are clearly dealing with challenges, there are still much wider challenges because we have not pinned down leadership. Who is leading this initiative and making these necessary things happen so that our players and our technical directors can focus on their job and not everybody else's job.
Right. Because like, FIFA and CONCACAF have restored their funding to the Football Association after they went through all of the process with all of the stuff that was happening. So they restored their funding. I've been hearing there was still some big issue with our government in restoring the funding. So I really don't know where that is. You could probably ask somebody else that question.
All right. So again, another very important milestone here. In the first instance, it's not about professional players. It's not about funding. Certainly the 9-to-5er can be trained up to make a World Cup or a national team at the regional level or otherwise. Number two, what seems to be missing from the ingredients of making a cake is the leadership, a structure that provides the guidance so that the various moving parts know exactly clearly what their job is, what their responsibilities are, and how they proceed going forward. Let me hit the third point. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've had a number of technical directors arguably imported into the national team level. But of all of those technical directors, have any of them had any significant success in elevating the game of football, specifically at the national team level? And when I say elevating, I'm referring to winning titles, winning games, as opposed to, well, bravo, good effort. That's something for future development we can work on. But have any of the technical directors that we've brought in from somewhere else had any significant successes at the national team level?
Well, for me, look, I worked with almost all of them, you know, and starting off with the first one that I was Coach Winston Chung. Coach Winston Chung was our most successful technical director.
Right.
He got the guys up motivated, get them up the U95 workers we could train. And then remember we brought in the Brazilians. We brought in the Brazilian under 20 team in 1989 when they went to Saudi Arabia to the under 20 World Cup, and we drew 2-2 with them at the Annex.
Yes.
And then the year or so afterwards, we brought Santos from Brazil with the great Dr. Socrates who played for Brazil in the World Cup, and we just lost 2-0 to them. That was a great result. And Winston Chung had the players motivated, you know, but he was getting support. He went around, he put on his jacket, and he went to the bank, down the Swiss bank, and he got some money to bring the Brazilians over. And he did things to get the players all motivated, you know. And still, at that time, still the government still wasn't really pulling their weight with that either. The minister took a lot of credit for it, but I can tell you the truth, he never really did anything much, because I was there with Winston Chung.
But again, we remember the name of Winston Chung and certainly hold him at a level that really we haven't matched since. But again, though, just hearing you talk, I'm hearing that a technical director or head coach of a team is also putting on the suit and tie and soliciting funding, soliciting, you know, equipment, soliciting venues. And arguably, when we compare this national team and its operation to other in the region, this doesn't happen. There's somebody else that deals with those logistics, not the technical director.
Correct.
And again, this is something we need to matriculate past.
Well, that's it. I mean, you know, at least from my vantage point, and I would love to be able to do a really good analysis. I mean, we just got whipped, let's say, by Bermuda, right?
Yes.
Like you almost want to be able to sit and analyze and say, what exactly is happening there? Because I'd like to believe that on a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday, there can't be that much difference between a guy from Bermuda and a guy from Cayman. So there's something else happening, right? And it sounds to me like we really don't have a champion. And I would like to believe that the public, you talk about representing the Cayman Islands, the three islands are electing someone to office to represent sports.
Yes.
And off the top of my head, it sounds to me like that should be the person that's really going to get up and say, we as a country want and need to create a national team that goes to the next level.
Right.
That can all make us proud and make sure that they are getting from a government, from a people perspective, motivating the general public to come behind them, getting the funding, et cetera, so that everybody can focus on what they're supposed to focus on. I mean, to me, fine if you got the 9 to 5 and that individual shouldn't be making excuses and they should be getting out there and doing the training. But you shouldn't have someone that's come to coach and mentor to be having to go out and raise funds either.
No.
You know?
Coach?
When they said those names to you about those individual athletes like the swimmers.
Yes.
Think back of it. How much money did the government give them to train overseas?
Probably a lot.
Yes, the Sedona Models got it. Kareem Street got it. I'm not sure what they did with Jordan Crooks and those guys. I'm not sure. But a lot of funding was given to those individual athletes to train abroad at a higher level.
So why?
And we got results.
Why, in your opinion, and again, we got 8 top-class athletes that, the coach shared with me earlier today. Jordan Crooks, Jillian Crooks, Brett Frazier, Sean Frazier, Kareem Street Thompson from our era, Sidani Mothersill, Devontae Howell, Jaden Reed, all accomplished athletes in their own respective disciplines who have gone off and represented the Cayman Islands. Arguably, Justin Crooks putting swimming on the map in his achievements in terms of being placed at the collegiate level and the world level in swimming, having a phenomenal turnout at the last Olympics. But they all receive funding. So why is it? Why is it that football does not get the same attention?
Because the football teams has more players, so it's not enough money to give all of them. Maybe. I'm just saying, maybe it's because.
But let's work on that.
Maybe because we got a senior men's national team, we got an Olympic team, we got an under-20 team, we got an under-17 team in the boys, and we got an under-15 team. And in the girls, you probably got a women's team, a women's under-20 team, a women's under-15 team. So you got 5 or 6 teams with like 30 players average on a roster.
Okay.
Maybe that's
okay, but you're somewhere there's a filtering system that's going to tell us who's going to be the national players, right? So let's just say.
So what they could do.
Go ahead.
What they could do, instead of trying to build up the whole team, the most talented players could build up that could make also strengthen your team. Because remember now, Argentina only have one Lionel Messi, not 2 Lionel Messi.
Right.
Now one Lionel Messi, one Cristiano Ronaldo for Portugal could make a difference. So maybe we could find probably the most talented.
Well, this is what I'm saying. To me, if you have someone that's championing it, and let's say you've got 5 different teams, I would imagine one of the things would be, guys, we're going to get in here and over the next 6 months, you're going to train and we're going to duke it out because I want the best 15, 20 players. And that's what we're going to focus on, and we're going to carry you to win the World Cup or whatever we want to do. So I want to ask this question. Let's just say we got that filtering system here. The battle takes place locally. We identify 11 to 22 players. Let's go there. You got 2 full teams pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, what does it cost? What does that cost? I want to hear what that magic number is, because I know we abandoned projects and get a $17.1 million lawsuit. We spent $1.2 million on a referendum so that we could smoke marijuana and play the lottery. So tell me exactly how much it's going to cost to fund 22 players for 3-4 years so that you can come out at the end of the day shining. What is that? What is that number? Do you have to find a salary for each of those 22 persons for the year? I mean, let's do the math. I love doing math.
Well, like I said, if they're going to be in full time, maybe, but like I said again, they don't have to be in full time.
Right, they don't have to be.
Maybe you just need to fund their necessities.
Oh, let's go with the extreme, right? Let's go with the extreme. So if I got $60,000 a year, and I'm going to multiply it by 22 people, that's 1.3 million. 1.3 million times 4 years. You're talking 5,280,000 to give 22 players $60,000 salaries for every year for 4 years straight. And if Austin and I had to find $5 million, there'd be a lot of burping and all kinds of stuff. But this is nothing for the government.
This is doable.
With the greatest of respect, $5 million. I can think of a couple of pet projects that's been on. I don't want to
name them, of course.
I don't want to name anything right now. I sound too political.
Right.
$5 million. Let's just really understand it. 22 players, and that gets cut in half. That gets cut in half if you're just focusing on 11. But that, to me, wouldn't be the proper thing. Somebody can break a leg, whatever. 22 players getting a full salary for a year for 4 years straight cost the government $5 million. And potentially that gives us something that we can be proud of.
And then you could treat them like you would all persons who are you're paying, your employees. Just listen.
You perform.
These are the code of conduct. These are the standards. These excuses you give about finding reasons not to train and
get to work,
when to show up and whatnot, all of that goes out the window because now we're structuring this thing to create professional players out of you.
And it wouldn't be that much because in all top professional
because you got FIFA funding too.
No, that.
Oh, okay.
Not only that, in all top professional teams, not every player receives the same salary. You see?
Well, there you go.
So it depends on the level of the players. Like, for example, you got Man City, you got some players that are receiving a certain salary, so it just take on the job.
But the point that Ellio is making, I think, is we show on the extreme end, if we focused on just the players' individual needs, $5 million would be what would cover it. Now, certainly we can break that down into only the star players get it, only the ones that show up get it, only the team that actually, feels the pitch is going to get it, whatever the case may be. But from a cost perspective, we've been able to put a number on what the extreme version would be if everybody got paid. And to my colleague's point, at $5 million, think about it, K-Man. What do we drop $5, $10, $15 million on a whim in this country and get very little in return? It seems to be something that is clearly doable. But as we stated and have discovered, what is missing is leadership, and that means, of course, political leadership. So the Minister of Sports, vis-a-vis the Ministry of Sports, have to get involved and be a part of the process. Very quickly, with 3 minutes left, we asked the question about technical directors, and we have brought in several. We've got several notable, a handful of notable ones. The Brazilians, Mr. Winston Chung. Why is it that we aren't looking to develop local talent as those technical directors? Because I think of persons like you. I think of persons like, Renard Moxham. I think of persons, respectfully, like Coach Virgil Seymour. These are persons that have been successful in their individual club level, have taken their clubs both locally and internationally, and are doing well. Why can't we pull a Caymanian as a technical director? Is that too much to ask for?
Well, we can. We can pull if we're gonna just participate, which is what we're doing right now. If we're just gonna participate, why hiring a technical director or a coach from somewhere else? Give your Caymanians that money if that's what we're gonna do. If we're gonna compete, we might say, okay, let's get a good quality coach. Over a period of time, you got to make sure that you're developing X amount of local-based coaches to take over after, like what's happening now. They say after a certain amount of time, you get rollover.
So you're telling me that if the only way we can get a Cayman technical director, if we want to participate, in your words, so that's the status quo. All we're doing now is participating. We're not winning. We're not certainly striving. We're participating. But is it your opinion, though, that that same Caymanian coach can't fill the blanks to get us past participation, but to competing and maybe even winning?
With proper training in the
Okay. All right.
I don't know how much time we have left.
2 minutes.
Yeah, well, let me just say this very quickly, and I want to just spell this out to the public. To me, we need someone that is going to champion this. And persons would be naturally asking questions such as, well, what happens if you do get this special team and they win something? They make a name, like the Crooks. Let's look at it purely from a tourism perspective. I think we spent 26-point-something million advertising the Cayman Islands from a tourism perspective. And nothing wrong with that. This is not knocking the minister, but it's just showing you that what we're talking about is 1/5 of that would be invested in for 4 years to really make a champion team, that when you are out there making a big wins, that's a big tourism marketing product also. That's another reason for someone to want to come. I'm sure the Pelés, the Bob Marleys, all of those are icons that attract people to those particular countries.
Sports tourism is very big now.
Okay. Yeah, of course it is. And we see it. Thank you for saying that. Sports tourism. We host the Norseca Beach Volleyball Tournament that comes to Cayman, I think, once a year, and that is a crowd favorite. We've hosted a basketball tournament that goes on at the John Gray High School. I forget the specific name of that, but that brings in people. And undoubtedly, the CONCACAF game that's going to take place tomorrow night is going to bring in folks from Honduras to support their team. So we automatically see the economic value to investing in football, particularly at the national team level. But the question is, why don't we? 59 minutes past the hour, 6 o'clock is the time. And this conversation obviously will continue with Coach Gilly. The phone lines are open, 745-2626. If you've got an opinion or a comment to ask the coach, now's your opportunity to do so. We'll be right back after we check in with the top of the hour news brought to you by our news partners, BBC, here on Bobo FM.
Bobo
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive wind.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here. More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. A man who was wrongly deported from the United States to El Salvador 3 months ago is now back in the US. The abrupt removal of Kilmar Abrego Garcia in March prompted a row between the White House and the judiciary. The Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration should facilitate his return. At a news conference, the US Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said that Mr. Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran national, now faced charges of smuggling undocumented migrants. Reverend Michael Valacour, who knows Mr. Abrego Garcia and his family, told the BBC he believed he was innocent.
The administration acts like just because they say that he's a criminal, he is a criminal. I have always believed him and anyone who knows him and knows his community to be completely innocent, a hardworking and good family man, a loving father. And I don't believe a single one of these things. But the important thing is we have due process in the United States. It's a fundamental right that every person is innocent until proven guilty.
Republican politicians and supporters in the US have sought to contain the public row that exploded on Thursday between Donald Trump and his former advisor Elon Musk. White House officials say the president has no immediate plans to speak to Mr. Musk and is considering getting rid of his Tesla car. Here's our North America editor, Sarah Smith.
Are they going to escalate it further, or does this public pause mean that the fighting, certainly in public, is over for now? That's what it's going to be so fascinating to watch over the next few days, because it is very rare that Donald Trump is having a spat like this with someone who really is big enough to take him on. I mean, it's a row that's being compared to Godzilla fighting King Kong, if you like, because they are fairly evenly matched.
The Russian mercenary group Wagner has announced its departure from Mali, having fought jihadists for the past 3.5 years. The group said it had successfully completed its mission, despite a recent upsurge in attacks by Islamist militants. Wagner fighters and Malian soldiers have been accused of numerous human rights abuses. Another paramilitary group backed by Russia, the Africa Corps, will retain a presence in Mali. The police in Togo have fired tear gas to disperse a rare anti-government demonstration in the capital, Lomé. Young people and civil society activists had used social media to encourage people to gather to denounce a crackdown on dissent. This report from Will Ross.
In opposition strongholds of the capital, Lomé, police fired tear gas to stop these turning into large protests. Journalists were detained and had to erase their footage, an attempt to stop the news getting out. Dissent is not tolerated in Togo. Many young people are angry at the recent arrest of a popular rapper, Amron, who's often critical of the government. Last year, the constitution was amended. Critics say it was done in order to extend President Faure Gnassingbé's time in office. He took over in 2005 after succeeding his father, Eyadema, who had been in power for nearly 4 decades.
World news from the BBC. Rescue workers in Ukraine have found the bodies of more victims from intense drone and missile strikes carried out by Russia early on Friday. The attacks are now known to have killed 6 people. 2 of the dead were retrieved from the rubble of a destroyed building in the city of Chernihiv. The body of a man was found in the ruins of an apartment block in Lutsk. Donald Trump has signed an executive order lifting a half-century ban on commercial supersonic flights over the United States. A White House technology spokesman said advances in engineering and noise reduction made supersonic flights safe and commercially viable. He said passengers should be able to fly from New York to Los Angeles in under 4 hours, cutting 2 hours from the current journey time. Bolivia's electoral authorities have said a presidential poll scheduled for August will go ahead, despite days of unrest prompted by the exclusion of the country's former leader, Evo Morales. Last month, Mr. Morales was barred by the Constitutional Court from seeking a 4th term in office. He has insisted he will defy the ban. On Thursday, the Bolivian government filed criminal charges accusing the ex-president of terrorism and inciting violence. At the French Open Tennis Championship, the world number 1, Jannik Sinner, is set to face the title holder, Carlos Alcaraz, in the men's final on Sunday. Sinner, who's Italian, obtained his place in the final by beating Novak Djokovic, who had been hoping to win a record-breaking 25th Grand Slam tournament. Speaking after the match, Sinner paid tribute to his opponent.
You know, he achieved so many things. He's the best player in history of our sport, and playing against him here, it's amazing. Of course, I always try to prepare myself in the best possible way, trying to be ready for every situation on the courts. I'm very happy how we did that today.
That's the latest world news from the BBC.
Views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM as we continue our conversation with Coach Gilly Seymour on the... Sorry about that. Let's get rid of that. And that. There we go. Coach Gilly Seymour is our guest in studios talking to us about what it's going to take to build a World Cup, if not world level, quality level, national football team here in the Cayman Islands. We really are making some progress, but we got a number of, places to go. But we do have a caller on the line. Let's hear from the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Good evening, Ellio.
Good evening.
Hello?
Sorry, we lost you there. Please call us back. I don't know why that call dropped on us, but please do try calling us back, and we'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, just to recap where we've been, we talked. Never mind. There she is again. Let's see if we can go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello. Good evening. You're on the air.
And cut me off, and they won't hear me.
We didn't cut you off. It dropped. Sorry.
Sorry. Good evening, Mr. Seymour. I have a question. What time the match is tomorrow between Honduras and whatever? What time?
2 p.m. in the afternoon.
It kicks off at 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Oh, Lord, that when the sun out. I won't go back. My friends have the sun won't be out. Then I go here because little late sun.
And it's Truman Barton, right?
Yes, is it?
And it's going to be hot that time evening, oh, Lord. We wanted to go cheer up Honduras. I got my flag, my bell, my horn.
Yeah, 2 flags, please.
You can still come and find a shade under a tree.
Yes.
All right.
Is there
and I want to say happy birthday to my brother-in-law in Florida today. He Herbert High, he celebrates his birthday today. A very good man.
All right.
My sister husband, so today's his big day. I can't remember how old he is, but that don't matter. I just want to say happy birthday to him. May God bless him to see 1 million more. And I say, well, one little family yours used to say, Ellio, you don't know him, but he used to say, May God bless him, and if I had to kill him, he'll never die.
All right.
All right. You tell me about that one later.
So very much. And again, for your comments. And yes, the game tomorrow at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex featuring the national team against Honduras will kick off at 2 p.m. I thought it was I thought it was an evening game as well, but thank you, Coach Gilly, for clarifying that for us all.
You know, but the people need to also understand. What the people need to understand is why is our game being played at 2 and 3 p.m. Why? You know, it's something that somebody needs to let the people in the public know.
Well, tell us, what do you think?
I don't know. I just hear issues about the lights. That's what I heard, but I'm not sure if that's the facts. So I'm not going to say that's the facts. I just hear some issues with the lights, with the lighting at the stadium. The lighting at night is not sufficient for international game.
Wow. We really do have to start from square one when we talk about football in this country.
What's the entry fee tomorrow?
I'm not sure exactly what they charge. I can't remember what the ticket prices. I think
Okay, guess 25.
I think it's varying. Probably like bleacher side, grandstand side.
Okay.
Probably different.
Yeah.
I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was like $30.
Okay, $30. Okay, $25, $30. Well, again, I don't know how many. Yeah, I know. We're gonna break out the whole calculator here for a second in terms of how many people we could seat in the stadium, how much we're making in revenue.
Well, it's been
and sure that should be enough to put the lights on.
Well, it's been a while. They haven't been charging at games. Most of the time, it's free. So,
Well, again, listen, we are learning something here today.
We have something to talk about Monday, that's for sure.
Yeah, I tell you that we have lots to talk about on Monday for this. But listen, we've learned a number of things. Number one, this notion that Cayman cannot succeed at the regional or international level is because we don't pay our players, and therefore that our players can't eat, sleep, and breathe football for 7 days a week, 3 months, 6 months, a year at a time. That is nonsense. There is a model in which the 9-to-5 player can still be turned into a champion. We just haven't been able to explore that yet. But as an alternative, certainly when we look at, what it could cost us to pay the players to play and train full time, or paying only key star players, really, you're looking at a maximum of $5 just on the salary standpoint. And when you consider what the government came out at, $5 million. Thank you, $5 million. Thank you, Ellio. Just a few zeros more. But when we think about what the government spends for $5 million, certainly this is a drop in the bucket. The second thing is, and of course it probably should have been the first thing, what is missing in this whole equation is leadership. Somebody that claims ownership for the national team, both men's and women, and follows through with that. The technical director, the head coach, should not be the same person going out and soliciting funding, raising funds, finding the field, making sure there's a ball, et cetera, et cetera. They have very important and key jobs. They should focus on those jobs, not focus on all of the things that go on outside of the field. And we've determined that really, as Coach Gilly has said, you are representing the Cayman Islands, not SIFA, not, McDonald's. You are representing the Cayman Islands. Therefore, the Cayman Islands, as a jurisdiction, needs to claim ownership and lead from the front in developing our local football players, in particular, our national team. Leads us to the third question, which we asked just before the break. Can a Caymanian coach be nominated or selected as technical director and do more than just participate, which is what we're doing now and arguably have been doing for decades, but can that same Caymanian lead us to competing, and not only just competing, but winning? Coach Gilly, prior to the break, you said yes, but they need to be trained. So much like the players, they need to be developed. They need, the conditioning, both physically, mentally, technically. But that training doesn't stop, in your opinion, at the players, but also applies to the technical director. Talk to us about the kind of specific training that the country could or should afford a Caymanian technical director to make him or her capable of leading the national team to glory.
Well, over the years, working with all the technical directors, they always said that a Caymanian could do the job. And we human beings, just like everybody else. like I said, I've been through a lot of training courses myself. We have a couple of other coaches on the island who've been through some stages of coaching development, but it's always a continuing learning process. You can attend courses. I mean, they have courses, they have workshops going on around the world on a daily basis.
So my dream team in terms of leadership would include Coach Gilly. It would include Coach
Put together the dream team?
It would include in some way or the other Coach Uta Ebanks. It could include certainly Renard Moxham and certainly Paul Biles, because he can help both at the technical level and the finance level. But there is a 5-man dream team leadership on the coaching technical side made up all of Caymanians. Why we can't make that 5 people run and work with it?
Well, I would say, if not even just as a technical director, but because we have a technical committee formed, which, like I say, with experienced players like myself and Coach Huda, and we got players like Olsen Bush and that is coaching. Because, like, Renard, to be honest with you, is not actively involved in coaching. So, if you're not actively involved in coaching, then I would go more to the coaches who are actively involved. I mean, Coach Albert been in coaching for many years from Boston Town. He's been doing well with his club there. We got other coaches, but
Ask me to stick. Didn't stick around. So we had a caller there, and I'm trying to catch the callers as they call in. But continue, Coach.
So I think also, like I said, a good technical committee, with Caymanians on it for the development of our Caymanian children would be a good thing. Because I mean, nothing against the foreign coaches, because we have brought in, like I said, some good foreign coaches. But again, we have been doing that for the past couple of years, and there's nothing that's changed.
Right. When we look to, again, the present circumstance and, the national team losing terribly to Bermuda, obviously got to shake that off and face Honduras tomorrow. Not to qualify, but just to compete. I'll stick a pin because I see a caller back. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to contribute a little bit to the conversation.
Please.
About the sporting field in Cayman. So I'm not from Cayman originally, but from my observation and my understanding, because I'm highly invested in sporting activities, is that I see, like in the European countries, they develop children from a very young age. Well, I can say that I've seen the same in Cayman over the past few months. I see children doing practice in the school fields in Camana Bay, like it's professional practice. So I think it may take time, but again, to put out on the point where people were saying about paying players and coaches full time, I think it goes beyond the 9 to 5, where other countries are probably training day and night, and it becomes extremely, imbalanced in terms of the competition. Because you can imagine people who do this full time, they train full time, they wake up in the morning, they eat a healthy diet based on their nutritionist, and they do training the whole day. So the competition is going to be a little bit imbalanced, if I may say so. So my opinion is that the guys who are currently competing are actually doing a very good job with the resources that they have. But I feel like the development is on the right track in how they develop the current players.
All right.
Okay, thank you
very much. I mean, listen, you've heard it yourself. That's, one person's opinion. I can't say in all honesty that I agree because, again, with the greatest of respect.
When you're talking about training all day, I need to also let the caller know, right, that when he hears that people train all day, it's not actually going out on the field and physical training all day. A lot of training could be in the classroom, watching videos. You understand? Yeah, doing different stuff, right?
Right.
Because they can say.
Agreed. And I if anything, I mean, the caller can always correct me, but I the takeaway I'm getting from what he's saying is perhaps not even all day meaning literal all day either, but in the sense that they get an extended, much more time than we're getting to put in, I think is basically the point.
Yeah, and I think his point in terms of if we're going to look at this thing from a long-term development standpoint, he's absolutely right. You got to start from the Pee Wee League, start identifying young people, and then start that development throughout the various stages. But if we were to say, for example, the only way to achieve a World Cup level team would be to start at the beginning, then we're looking at a good 20 years before we have any proof that that approach has worked.
Also, something I wanted to say on the show, and I always talk about it. When I go to I went to most of the primary school graduations, they would address an athlete, like a footballer, would say Ellio Solomon, and they would say football. So they give him a certificate for football. He was the good footballer who played for that school, who won trophies for Red Bay Primary, who won championships for Red Bay Primary. But then the people say that's all he did was play football. So most people, and my Lord was all the parents who laughed at him, say, oh, all he did was play football. Now, Austin, you comes along and you get 15 subjects, you get 15 passes and thing, and the focus went on you, the scholar, Now, if Ellio was that good to be winning championships for his school, right? Why then we identify him and say, okay, let's put him into the professional environment and do what our mother country said. At the Euros, I watched at Salties when England was playing. The commentator said when Bellingham and all of them was playing for England, the commentator said, these young boys are applying their trade.
Mm-hmm.
So when we identify that talented athlete, we got to stop saying all you do is playing football, all you do is playing cricket. You got to take it as a trade because people are getting paid. LeBron James is getting paid lots of money for playing basketball.
Sure.
So just think about we can go on to other athletes, It's a trade.
Indeed. But also to the caller's point, which is where I have to disagree, because I think he says he thinks the current lot are doing well and certainly doing the best they can with what resources are available. That latter statement might be true, but on this notion of doing well, if I am completely honest, we seem to, and we say this all the time, we seem to have grown comfortable with mediocrity. And we take mediocrity and say, if this is the best that we can be, then this is all we are. But clearly, we can be better, and we have been better, arguably, in the past.
We prove that our Cayman athletes, the individual athletes, can compete at the world stage in the Jordan Crooks, in the Sean Fraser, the Brett Fraser, the Creamsey, but proven that they can compete at the world stage.
I'm glad you raised that because that's the point I wanted to make. And again, I am going to say and preface this with the fact that I'm an outsider, can't claim to ever really be one champion in terms of soccer.
Yeah.
I was more of an individual sports person. Like I was very good at high jump, and I was did other things, right, like javelin.
Fishing.
And I keep telling my friend that fishing doesn't necessarily qualify. Which, by the way, I forgot to give a shout out weeks ago to my friend Basil Hammett, who won in that fishing tournament. My goodness. Anyway, but let me just say this.
Sorry. If fishing is a sport.
I'm teasing him.
Fishing is a sport.
I am teasing him. Don't worry about it. This is between him and I. It's just he's the fishing guy and I'm the hula hoop guy. Just stay out of this argument, okay?
Hey, don't bring a woman to compete with him because.
But to the point that you're making is what I wanted to say is that if you look at what we're seeing in terms of the crooks and the list goes on, this is showing us that there's nothing uniquely wrong or have a problem in Cayman and with Caymanians. We clearly have the physical and the mental aptitude by which to go far, as we can see recently from crooks. But a fundamental difference there that I wish to highlight, it should be obvious, but one is an individual sport where an individual's performance can be judged, and another one is a team sport. So let's just say, for example, I take crooks, and I didn't make it that he was competing, but he was part of a team. He may not have won. He may not have went very far because it wasn't about Crook's performance. It was about a team. And when you have that team effort, you have a totally different dynamic. And I think that what I see happening here is that as a country, to your point about even the stigma that we put over it, we if the person deals with certain trades, and I've talked to my colleague about this as well, when it comes to certain skills and trades, intellectualism, we don't seem to have much respect for it. It's about money and certain other things. Nothing different in relation to the sports. But I think Cayman really needs a champion for soccer. And it should be coming, in my humble opinion, from the person who is responsible for sports.
Yeah.
And in fairness to anyone who has filled that position, part of the reason why we haven't got that champion is for the same dismissive reason that you gave when you said, how we look at sports, how we don't give that the sort of proper recognition. But to me, if you got a champion inside of there, I really see this as an opportunity, and I want to make sure and stress this is not to slight anyone in the past, and definitely not anyone who has just been elected to office. But I can see that something like this should be an initiative, if necessary financially. It could go on two budgets, on the tourism as well as the sports, where we can allocate that $6 million and try to get all of those persons competing and getting the best, let's say the 22 number that we talked about. Because I want you to understand, I believe you could bring Messi here, to use that example, and he can play with the football team, but it doesn't mean that Messi's going to be the same Messi he is on his other team, because it is a team sport. Somebody has to work with Messi, somebody has to work with the Pelés, etc., for him to be a star.
Yeah.
He can't possibly do it on his own. And so there is some young man, or several of them, or maybe even women, that are totally frustrated because they know what they're putting in, but it doesn't matter what you are putting in. It's not going to be a direct correlation as you would see for Crooks. Yes. It is because I am working my butt off, but if this guy decides to go drinking on Friday night and can't show up on Saturday morning for the game, I'm still going to lose.
You're only as strong as the weakest link.
And I don't shine. So I say that because I think we can champion this. I want to encourage the ministers who are listening as much as possible. Let's develop a thirst and a desire to put Cayman on the map with a lot of things. We've already seen our talent go overseas and make us shine, and we have an opportunity to do the exact same thing when it comes to soccer. And I think I consider myself to be frugal, if not parsimonious, and I would like to say that I really don't think $5 million or $5.2 million is a lot of money to spend to create a championship over the next 4 years that every Caymanian can be proud about. It's gonna reap its benefits just in terms of the recognition that this country again will receive overseas in additional tourism, etc.
Absolutely, Coach. With 2 minutes remaining, the floor is yours.
Well, I want to say that I'm hoping that this nice talk show has reached out to a lot of people in our football fraternity. The John Puppet say educate them on what's really happening in our, especially in our football fraternity, and hopefully that we can get some positives out of this great show that you guys have put on.
Well, Coach, we thank you very much for that, and any positives that we can derive from this wouldn't have been made possible without you kicking the balls, getting the ball rolling, to use a pun, and certainly you have done that. As my colleague has stated, you have guided our minds towards where the gaps exist and what we can do better, and that starts with obviously finding that leader, finding that champion. And we certainly are happy to encourage it to push the ball further down the field by encouraging the minister, in this case, I believe it's the Honorable Isaac Rankin.
Yes, I think so.
To take greater ownership for football in the Cayman Islands, particularly at the national team level, so that we don't just, I guess, give praise for participation, but can give praise for performance and winning as well.
Or like what most ministers had said in the past, if football was just a pastime.
Right. No, we need to matriculate past that notion, and whether it's mediocrity holding us back or something else. But I promise you, Coach Giddy, we will invite you back to the program. We will make a commitment to the listening audience to continue the conversation on the development of football, specifically at the national team level. And we will also do what we can to encourage the political arm, the minister, to perhaps come in, speak to us, and take ownership for this thing, which clearly has fantastic potential, but we have not yet realized it yet. 30 seconds, Ellio.
Yeah, if we have the time, I'd just like to say I'd like to thank you very much for coming in. You definitely educated myself, and it is something now that I have that in my head, it will be a lot more discussion going on in this particular issue, and I think it'll start as early as Monday. Thank you very much, and have an awesome weekend. Keep up the great job.
Indeed. And don't forget to check out the matches on Sunday as well. 3 great matches, under 9, under 11, and under 11 girls and under level boys, all taking place at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex. Have a good weekend here on Straight Talk.
The home of the BBC World Service, the most trusted news source in the world. This is Bobo 103.1. The following commercial messages are brought to you exclusively by Stingray Media. This is Bobo 103.1. Now in our new home of 103.1 FM. Powered by Health Services Authority. Committed to caring for you. Now, let's rejoin the BBC World Service.
Further. Filming and streaming participants live to the world 24 hours a day and making it all into a competition with one winner left at the end.
It was more than just a hit. It was a smash.
Zing Singh and Simon Jack are telling the story of the media tycoon, John de Mol.
He's now worth around $1.7 billion US.
Good Bad Billionaire, John de Mol. To listen, search Good Bad Billionaire online or wherever you get your...
Coming up after the news, which would you say is better for your thinking skills? A video game or exercise? We bring you some surprising insights from the world of gaming research. Plus, the tale of the fictional hobbit, the elusive frog named after it, and attempts to find it from its beeping love song. Also, why are microwaves made of metal if you can't put metal in a microwave? All that plus more coming up shortly.
BBC News with Moira Alderson. A man who was wrongly deported from the